All right, hello and welcome back to my channel, guys. In case you don't know who I am, I'm Andrew Cipriano. I am currently studying psychology. Right now I'm working at a mental hospital, a psych ward, in the old style way of saying it. We don't really say that anymore. It sounds kind of bad. And it's not as bad as people think it is, so I don't like to say psych ward. It's a bad stigma of what a psych hospital actually is. Anyways, today I'm going to talk about something that's very, very near and dear to my heart. Everyone has their reason for why they're getting into psychology. This is mine. So, depression. I often say I love depression, and I don't mean that in a sarcastic way. I just mean that I understand it. I get it. I can talk to people about it. I think I understand genuinely where it comes from, how to help with it. So it's near and dear to me, and I like it because it's something I know. So anyways, just gonna really fast describe depression for anyone who isn't really sure what it is. Depression it's very real. It's very serious, and I want to say depression is, people don't really talk about it like this, but I think they should. Just like when you have physical pain, there's damage to your tissue and you have a physical pain, obviously your neuroreceptors are going off, or you have an illness and your body's telling you something isn't right. I think depression is the same thing, but it's just mentally telling you something isn't right. So I think it's really important to look at depression as a signal that your mind is telling you something isn't right. And then using this, you can also empower yourself to figure out what that is instead of feeling like you're just hopeless. I'm going to go over the DSM-5 is like the criteria handbook for how to diagnose. It's like the guidelines for psychology that psychologists and clinical clinicians use to diagnose. So depression is depressed mood, markedly diminished interest or pleasure, significant weight loss or weight gain, insomnia, hypersomnia, psychomotor agitation, fatigue or loss of energy, feelings of worthlessness or excessive inappropriate guilt, diminished ability to think, concentrate, or indecisiveness, recurrent thoughts of death, recurrent suicidal ideation, or suicide attempt. With the DSM-5, it's never all of the symptoms all at one time. It's usually a collection of them over a certain amount of time. In depression's case, you have to have 5 of these symptoms or more over a span of 2 weeks minimum. So I'm going to move on to the whole conversation I'm going to do about depression. I read this book when I was going through a really rough patch about 2 years ago. It is The Depression Cure, 6 Steps to Beat Depression Without Drugs by Stephen S. Iliardi, PhD. Alright, so Dr. Iliardi's research focuses on the etiology and treatment of depression. Over the past decade, his clinical research team has worked to develop the therapeutic lifestyle change treatment protocol based on several modifiable lifestyle factors. So I'm going to talk about these today. In my psych unit, I teach this group as a complementary to the meds. I am not a psychiatrist. I don't know a ton about the medication, the antidepressants. I know a decent amount about their effectiveness, their ineffectiveness sometimes. I am not going to use this video to say anything bad about antidepressants. There's a place for them, there's a time for them, they work for some people. There's nothing that I'm going to say against them. I am going to say that this 6-step cure, or complementary to antidepressants, is something that I have personal experience with that I really am going to back up confidently. I teach this in my group at the psych unit. I never ever shame antidepressants. Those people are usually in a crisis point during their lives, and antidepressants are good for the crisis point of the depression. You know, if things are looking really bleak, try it. I'm never going to say not to try it. However, if you're just doing the antidepressant and you're not doing any lifestyle changes or cognitive changes or behavioral changes, I don't have strong faith in them. Again, depression's signaling that something might not be right that's going on in your mind. If you're going to just take a pill to get rid of that, I don't logically think that it should work forever. You know, it's like putting a Band-Aid over a wound that isn't healed. Back to these 6 techniques that Dr. Iliardi talks about. I'm going to go over the list. It's not going to be comprehensive of everything involved. I might even do a video on each one independently because there's so much information. I'm going to go over them generally, and you can look into them more if you want, or I'll make more videos on them. The first one is dietary omega-3 fatty acids. The next one, 2, is engaging activity. 3 is physical exercise. 4 is sunlight exposure. 5 is social support. And 6 is sleep. So really fast. This whole book and his philosophy, really, Dr. Iliardi, is based on looking at depression rates, where they're the most common, where they're non-existent, history of depression with hunter and gatherer tribes, how we used to live compared to now. The industrialization of our lifestyles actually caused depression, or at least depression rates to go higher. So I agree with Dr. Iliardi on this point. We're living these lifestyles that over the 100 years have changed dramatically from how we've lived for thousands. Our bodies really aren't built to be inside all day long, sitting at the computer desk, staring at screens, eating junk food, not sleeping properly, not working towards anything engaging or meaningful with social connections involved. So I agree with Dr. Iliardi. I think that depression is a lot more logical and straightforward than people make it. And I don't know if that's something to do with the pharmaceutical companies that don't want us to get better. Again, I can't talk bad about the antidepressants because they do work for some people, and I would never recommend that someone who's depressed not try them if they haven't. Maybe not as a first thing, but if it's going to give you some kind of relief, do it. I'm just not confident that that alone is going to help with the depression over a long period of time. So I want to give some basic information. I looked up the World Health Organization numbers for the lowest and highest rates of depression in the world, thinking that they would probably align with this philosophy of lifestyle, and they do. So the top 3 depression rates in the world were China, India, and the United States. Keep in mind that when you're getting numbers off of like the World Health Organization website, there's a lot of underreporting going on. There might be overreporting, but we have to assume that there's a lot of variables that are getting in the way of true numbers, and we're never going to get the true numbers. But I would agree that China, India, and the US probably are the highest rates of depression. We seem to be the most industrialized. God, we have the 80-hour work week, and that's all people focus on. We're inside all day long behind a computer. Chronic stress. We're the loneliest nation, well, at least the US is one of the loneliest nations, ironically, with the social media and all the technology. Probably why we are the loneliest. So that kind of makes sense. With those will be the highest. The 3 lowest, I'm going to go over this in more detail, were the Solomon Islands, and I'm just going to go over these places because maybe people have never heard of them. The Solomon Islands are a nation of hundreds of islands in the South Pacific. Cool. So beautiful, tropical, more of a hunter-gatherer feel, I'm sure, compared to the industrialized China, America. So the next one on the list for least depression is Papua New Guinea, a country of immense cultural and social and biological diversity. It's known for its beaches, coral reefs, inland or natural volcanoes, dense rainforests, and hiking routes. There are also traditional tribal villages, many with their own languages. I think it's very ironic that maybe it isn't ironic. This is the second least depressed country in the world, at least from the numbers we have reported, and it lines up entirely with Dr. Iliardi's research. The third least depressed is East Timor. For anyone who doesn't know, it's Southeast Asia, beautiful, coastal, natural, again, small villages, everything that lines up with the research in this book. So we're going to dive deeper into each one of these 6 factors. Again, I don't want this to be a comprehensive video by any means. I just want to introduce the topic. If you guys want, I'm always going to say whatever book I recommend, please buy it. It'll help out Dr. Iliardi. It'll make me happy that you're reading it. I've recommended this book to so many people in the psych unit. I've thought about buying it for them before, but I don't make that kind of money. So I'm just gonna make the video, and it's like $10 a person to buy the book. So the dietary omega-3 fatty acids, so really fast. For anyone who doesn't know much about the brain is 60% fat. Our brain needs fat to be healthy. It needs it to survive. And I don't wanna say that omega-6 fatty acids aren't good, because the 3 and the 6 work together to make your brain healthy. So you see the omega-3 fish oil commercials, that's what they're recommending. That's why you hear so much omega-3 fish oil and wonder, how is it helping your body? Well, it's good for your brain. It's good for your mental health. So you find these in fish, wild game, nuts, seeds, leafy vegetables, and then I'm just going to throw this in here. One of my patients from the psych unit when I did this group one time jumped up and exclaimed chia seeds are like the best thing you can put in your body. Anyways, I looked up chia seeds, and there's a lot of omega-3 fatty acids in chia seeds, and I looked up the benefits. It's a little holistic-y and stuff, but they have a lot of benefits. So chia seeds, do it up. If you ever don't want to eat anything healthy feeling, you literally just grind them into a smoothie or anything. They are tasteless, and they're very good for you. Dr. Iliardi goes in depth about these 3 versus 6 and how they both help your brain and how much you need, but for every 1 omega-3 fatty acid, you need 1 omega-6. That's how your brain works healthy. Makes sense, simple enough. So Dr. Iliardi says that for every 1 omega-3 we have 16 omega-6. 1 to 16. That's a huge difference. That's like a staggering statistic. So that's not good. So to get back to having that balance, you can either eat these foods, fish, wild game, nuts, seeds, leafy vegetables. Be careful though, because animals are now being fed grains instead of leafy vegetables like they should be eating. So ironically, when you're eating these store-bought meats, you're actually not getting the omega-3 that you think you would be if you just looked at this and breezed over it quickly. So be careful with that. Also, really fast, another point, sugary foods, anything high in carbs like that creates inflammation in your body, also linked to depression, chronic inflammation. Not good. Neither is chronic stress. So dietary omega-3 fatty acids are really important. Really omega-6 and 3, but since we are on such a bad ratio of 16 to 1, we're assuming that we're getting enough omega-6s, so we need to focus on the 3. Engaging activity is the next thing on here. Engaging activity would just be anything that keeps you busy and fulfilled, where you're not sitting there and thinking negatively, or have time to think negatively, or be alone. So for anyone who doesn't know, rumination is a common term when talking about depression. It literally just means that you're sitting there and thinking over in a cycle the same negative thoughts, and you're just chewing them over. So rumination actually comes from the word to chew. That's what cows do when they're eating. They sit there and they ruminate in the field where they're just chewing and chewing and chewing. So that's where that word comes from, and that's what it means when you're doing that and you're depressed. You're just chewing over the same negative stuff, and you're in a horrible cycle. And this is directly linked to depression. Everything empirically studied states that rumination and depression are strongly correlated. A note that Dr. Ilardi puts in his book was that rumination only happens when we have free time, or we're unengaged and we're bored. So for people that do have meaningful things going on, they have a job that they actually are engaged at, they have a family they're taking care of, they're working out, they're doing things that are meaningful to them, or at least engaging, this doesn't really happen. So again, rumination is not good, and you can fight it by just having things to do. Keep in mind, they shouldn't just be instantly gratifying things, because that's not engaging activity. That's numbing activity, depending on how you look at it. So I want to quote Jordan Peterson. For anyone who knows Jordan Peterson, I'm sure everyone who's watching this video has at least heard of him. He says that if you don't know what to do, try to pick up the heaviest thing and carry it, or take the most responsibility you can and bear that. And that's where you'll find your meaning in life. And I tend to agree, and I think Viktor Frankl agrees with that. Anyone who's ever heard of Viktor Frankl, Man's Search for Meaning, he says that you find meaning through your suffering. And a lot of people will agree that having responsibility, although it's meaningful, it's suffering a lot of the time. Nobody wants to get up early and take care of 3 kids and go to work and have to go to school at the same time, and it is suffering a lot of the time, responsibility. But that's where people draw their meaning. So it's that double-edged sword. So again, that's engaging activity. That's number 2. Number 3, I really like this one. So physical exercise. I like this one because so much research shows how good physical exercise is for everyone, mentally and physically. There's like no doubt about it. Exercise is literally medicine, physical and mental medicine. So we're gonna go over this study. Dr. Ilardi uses the Zoloft versus Brisk walk study. This one's pretty famous. There was a study, people got Zoloft, or people did 3 30-minute walks, brisk walking a week. Not even that much exercise, right? And a lot of people wouldn't even consider that exercise. So the results were about the same effects from the Zoloft or the walking, but after 10 months, the relapse rate on the Zoloft was 3 times higher than the walkers. That's amazing. I think that right there should be a testament towards exercise alone. If you could go on a walk, get physically fit, lose weight, feel better about yourself physically and mentally, and you'd have better results, then why wouldn't you do that instead of the Zoloft, which has negative side effects like any medication really does. So that's all. Again, not anti-meds, but I am where it makes sense to be. So another part of the exercise that I like to talk about is stress. Chronic stress is something that we're not supposed to be built for, and we really aren't built for. Again, back to the hunter-gatherer stuff, lions chasing you, you have that stress response, adrenaline rushes, cortisol flows, you calm down, you're good, you work it off. That's what you do. You run when you're scared. You fight or flight. That's what that is. So we're naturally supposed to get rid of the cortisol and the adrenaline hormones that build up after stress. Because we're not exercising, and we're under constant all-day stress, we have a ton of these hormones built up, and they become toxic in your body. Exercise is great to relieve this. I just want to keep pushing it. Exercise, exercise, exercise. It does not have to be you running 15 miles and you hate your life and you don't look forward to it. Find something you enjoy. I love rollerblading. After this video, I'm going to rollerblade for half an hour, and I'll be in the sunlight. That's 2 birds in 1 stone with this depression philosophy. Find something you enjoy. Golf, tennis, go chop wood in the back, literally whatever the hell you want to do. Go on a walk with your friend in the mall. You can consider shopping exercise. It doesn't matter. Just get off your butt and do something, and it'll make you feel better, mentally and physically. So the next one's gonna be sunlight exposure. This one, again, it goes hand in hand with exercise in the summer at least, but it's harder in the winter. So for anyone who doesn't know, seasonal affective disorder, SAD, ironically called that, funny, is seasonal depression. So this spikes in short winter months when the sun is not available, especially in places way north of the equator where sun isn't available. People have known about this for a long time. If you look back, there's pictures of little Russian kids in front of like a UV light box to get sunlight because that you need it for your body. So when you're not getting that sunlight, your body's circadian rhythms are thrown off, and your mental health deteriorates because you're not sleeping properly. Dr. Ilardi points out that bright light stimulates the brain's production of serotonin. That's what antidepressants do, is serotonin, dopamine, that's what they target. So if you can get that literally from getting enough sunlight every day, why wouldn't you try that? So Dr. Ilardi states you only need 15 to 30 minutes of bright light every day to get the antidepressant results. More never hurts, but again, I just want to say this, health psychology, wear sunscreen, people, because if you get skin cancer or any other chronic illness from not taking care of yourself, that's going to be an influencer in depression to come back. Why wouldn't it be? Any kind of terminal illness like that, or large life-affecting illness is not good for your mental health. So please wear sunscreen, people. Anyways, sunlight is very important for your body. You can get a bright light box. They make them. Google them if you live somewhere like I do in Michigan, where the sunlight is literally non-existent for weeks at a time. And I've noticed myself, seasonal affective, that yes, my mood is absolutely different in the winter when I can't go outside. There's no fresh air. There's no sunlight. So I see a direct correlation to that. That one's very logical to me. It makes a lot of sense. Okay, so the next one on here is social support. So we're humans. You know, everyone says we're such social creatures, but we really are. We cannot survive without social support. Dr. Iliardi starts talking about social support, and he goes back to the hunter and gatherers. He starts talking about them again. He says they're almost never alone. Any activity they're doing throughout the day, hunting, foraging, cooking, singing, dancing, they're with somebody. That's so juxtaposed to the lives that we live now as Americans, where I'm literally sitting in my room alone talking to people on a TV screen, but technically I'm alone, and I feel alone, so I shouldn't feel not alone. We're always alone. Social media is horrible for this. It gives you the false impression that we shouldn't be lonely, but really it just adds to the loneliness. I have my own problems. I have my own problems with social media. It can be good. Social media is a powerful weapon. It's just like a gun or a car. If you misuse it, someone's going to get hurt. We actually evolve psychologically and physically to need other people. Without packs of people physically, there's no way we would have survived any kind of predator in the wild. Like this is not gonna cut through any lion's skin. And then as well as psychologically, there's a whole literature on how humans need to be socially connected and feel wanted and loved. This is a book. I love recommending books. This is called Transcend by Dr. Scott Barry Kaufman. He's a psychologist who loves Maslow, Abraham Maslow. For anyone who doesn't know, Maslow's the one who coined, even though he never talked about it being a pyramid of hierarchy of needs. So it's not a pyramid. Maslow didn't want it to come off that way. That's how it was marketed. It was easy, it was understandable, digestible, and enter the psych class, so that's what we talked about. Dr. Kaufman redefines this hierarchy into a sailboat. So I'm gonna show it. And as you guys can see, there is a whole base of the sailboat built on connection. That's a need. That is a psychological need to have connection. We have to have someone in our life that we can talk to, that we can be around. We can't do it alone. And when we try to do it alone, our mind tells us something's not right and we get mentally ill. So just be wary with social support. We need people in our lives that matter to us. The last one on here is sleep. Sleep is connected with mood. Proper sleep habits are correlated with good mental health. Everyone knows this. So my example, I could use a personal example. I guess I don't want to, because in my psych unit I was talking to someone who was bipolar, and they were telling me that they can hit the nail on the head when they're going to have a manic episode because they haven't been sleeping properly. So the same flip of the coin goes with depression. He happens to get manic when he doesn't sleep, but then he gets depressed afterwards. So really it triggers both. But I think that's interesting. So with depression also, sleep is directly correlated. Again, we went back to the light and how it regulates your circadian rhythm, so that's important. Then Dr. Ilardi, he talks about how the hunter and gatherers go to bed with the natural. He says the ebb and the flow of the sunrise and the sunset. So he says that they get about 10 hours a day. That's a lot. I don't know if that's true that we need that many hours, but I know plenty of people who are in full-time work and students, and they have families and they're getting like 6 hours of sleep. And really a lot of the time I see people come into the psych unit that after a couple of days of getting some good sleep, they're way better. I mean, like literally less psychotic, better. I shouldn't say that's the only reason. Think like a scientist, you know, there's a ton of different reasons for everything, and they're getting medication usually a day or two in, especially if they're experiencing psychosis. But I can tell you before the medication for the first day, if somebody takes the 10-hour sleep, or I've seen people sleep up to 12 hours easily in the psych unit, they'll wake up and you can see they're so much healthier physically and mentally, absolutely mentally. So I just want to touch on these one more time. Dietary omega-3 fatty acids, again, we need 6 and 3, but because we get so many 6 in our current American industrialized diet, we need up to 3. Again, both important. We're looking at about a 1-to-1 ratio. You can do this with fish oil. I'm not sure if I'm going to do another video on this yet. It's going to be a whole 6-video series, a lot, and you could just look at, Dr. Iliardi has a TED Talk, and you could just buy the book. I'd recommend you just buying the book if you want more information, because I can talk about it till I'm blue in the face, but it doesn't seem fair. I'd rather you buy the book from someone who has spent their whole life researching it than me go over each chapter of his book. Seems kind of like a cop-out. It doesn't seem fair. So buy the book, but omega-3 and 6 are important. Engaging activity. This is number 2. So something that keeps your mind from ruminating. I can't tell you what that is. Everyone has different meaning and engaging activities in their life. Like literally, again, I can go rollerblading. I could do a video. This is engaging to me. I can go hang out with a friend. I could read a book. Karaoke machine is sitting right next to this phone. Waiting for that. I'm cracking myself. Anyways, engaging activity. So physical exercise. This is probably, I don't think it's my favorite. I like engaging activity. I think that's important. I think to have life, you need meaning, or you're going to be depressed. And Dr. Frankl has that quote. Dr. Viktor Frankl says, suffering without meaning equals despair. So that's why my number 2 is engaging activity. I think you have to have some kind of meaningful engagement activities and some kind of responsibility to shoulder to help yourself from feeling worthless and depressed. But anyways, physical exercise is so important on mind and body. The evidence is so overwhelmingly clear on all of this. Dr. Jordan Peterson always says the best way to maintain fluid IQ is to physically exercise. I mean, come on, so much evidence. Do some kind of physical exercise. It's just it kills like 30 birds in one stone. Everything about you feels better after doing that. Anyways, sunlight is number 4. So get enough sunlight. If you can't get a light box, they're not that expensive, or find a way to get some kind of sun in your life. I'm not going to make a fully hearted stand towards just vitamin D3 that you can buy. I do recommend taking it in the winter. I've been doing that. Again, think like a scientist, a million variables. Maybe that's not what's going on. Maybe it's a placebo, who knows? But I take it, it's so inexpensive, like why not? The next one is social support. So please just have somebody in your life. It's not about how many people you have or how many followers. It's about having genuinely true and truthful relationships that you can be yourself around, and you can talk to people and you can bounce ideas off. People learn by doing that. That's how you think and you learn and you grow, is by talking with other people. It's very important to have social support in your life. And ironically and unfortunately, with depression, almost all 6 of these factors, when you get depressed, you stop doing, because you're depressed. You withdraw socially, you don't go outside, you're not exercising, you're definitely not eating right, or at least not eating enough, depending on how you are. Some people overeat, some people undereat, and you're not sleeping properly. You're oversleeping, or you're not sleeping at the right times during the day. Get on a sleeping schedule. You need to have your brain regulated when it's going to go to bed and when it's going to wake up. It's necessary for mental health. So those are the 6. Dr. Ilardi claims that these 6 therapeutic lifestyle changes can fight depression as effectively as any medication. That's a very, very strong claim to make, and Dr. Ilardi is someone with no shortage of reputation. So take that into account. One more thing I want to put out. So in 2004, this book quotes it again, there's a landmark study that looked at 6-month results from different antidepressants, so like Zoloft, Paxil I've never heard of, and Prozac. They only found a 23% recovery after 6 months. First of all, that's a really long time to be depressed. I don't want to ever underplay how horrible and awful it is to be depressed. That's a long time to be depressed. 6 months? Wow, and 23%. Just to put that in perspective, imagine if you got a math test back and you had gotten a 23%. Why is this the most effective thing that we're at least pushing and claiming that it's the most effective, and that's the number 1 treatment, when maybe it isn't, and there should be lifestyle changes at least done prior to, or in addition to the medication. So again, depression is very, very near and dear to my heart. This book is amazing, and I've been doing this group again. Had really good results with it myself. I'm going to keep teaching these principles because I fully believe in all of them. I think you should just get the book. But that was a really quick help for depression. If you don't have access to the book, look at this video again, just these 6 principles. I'm going to go over them one more time because I think they're very important. Dietary omega-3, fatty acids, engaging activity, physical exercise, sunlight exposure, social support, and sleep. All the things that our ancestors were doing naturally before industrialization happened, and we sat behind a computer desk for our entire day eating junk food. So I just want to shed some light on depression and give whoever is going through a dark time some hope that this might actually be curable through lifestyle changes. And that's incredible, incredible hope that I truly believe in. That's like the best advice and news you could give anyone who's going through depression. So please, please comment below. If you have any questions, you can ask me. You could always just get the book. I'm gonna keep saying that. Thank you for your time. My name is Cipriano. I'll be making more videos about mental health. Thank you for watching. All right, have a good day.